Trudy Mason sitting in for Aaron Rand in conversation with our tech whiz, Carmi Levy. Hi, Carmi.
Hi, Trudy. So great to be with you.
As always, great to talk to you. We're going to dive right into this announcement out of TikTok that it will be recruiting its users to help, in a way, police misinformation. But I don't know if it's using the term police. I think it's providing context, isn't it? That's what TikTok is saying that the goal is of this new initiative.
Yeah, so I mean, if you see a video on TikTok that you feel qualifies as misinformation, that it's misrepresenting something, then there's a new program called Footnotes that will allow you to post an explanation saying, well, no, maybe you got it wrong. Here's another source that you might want to look at. You can attach notes to that video so that anybody who watches it after can kind of see the corrected. They'll see the original video. You won't be able to take the video down, but they'll see sort of the corrections that members of the broader community have added to the conversation. And if you've been following Meta and X, they've introduced something similar in recent months. They call it community notes. And it's really much the same thing, that if you see something, there will be kind of notes attached to it underneath and you can read through them. That's supposed to kind of address misinformation on the platform. The problem with Meta and X is that they introduced community notes and they got rid of the humans, their staff members, who did this moderation, who looked for misinformation and who either removed or flagged, questionable content. Whereas with TikTok, they're introducing footnotes, but the human moderators, they stay. It's in addition to humans, so you can still, if you see something that's questionable, you can post something, but you can also flag it, and then their teams will take care of it as well. They're saying they're doing it to rein in misinformation and do all they can to ensure that whenever you see something on TikTok, you can trust that it's on the up and up and it's not trying to mislead you or anyone else.
Will all TikTok users have this ability to post a note?
Initially, no. Initially, now they're saying that about 80,000 what they call qualified users will have access to this. So, in other words, you've got to register. You can't be subject to any kind of disciplinary action on the TikTok platform. You have to be a regular user. You have to be 18 years and older. Right now, it's only open to users in the U.S. who have to apply for it, and you have to have been on the app for at least 6 months. So it's still kind of limited, but over time, the plan is expand it to other countries. And of course, us being in Canada, we'll be able to see videos that have been flagged elsewhere. And in a few months, we'll be able to join this program as well. But again, we're not just going to let anyone on. You kind of have to prove that you're a human, that you're a legitimate human being, and you haven't posted anything that got you banned before. And if you meet those criteria, you too can become part of that Footnotes initiative.
Tell us about this initiative in Mississauga and Brampton in Ontario to use drones as first responders when people call 911. What will the protocol be there?
Yeah, this is really cool. This is the first in Canada that we're seeing this. Of course, we've seen drones used by police forces, including in Quebec, for years. But in many cases, those are drones that are carried in the police units themselves, and then they can use them when they're out on a call. Maybe to investigate a traffic incident or an accident, or maybe look for a suspect, something like that. What's different here is this involves calling 911. So when you call 911, we know that there's kind of a huge problem with response times. In many cases, callers call and they wait and they wait and they wait. And so in this case, if things are backed up in the dispatch center, the dispatcher will have the option, if it's going to take, say, maybe an hour to send a police unit out to a particular site, they'll be able to dispatch a drone immediately. And so what that does, this doesn't replace the police. They'll still send the cop car when the time comes, but the drone gets there first. It uses its cameras and other sensors to soak up information, recon the situation, and then share that information with the responding police officers who can then hit the ground running when they finally arrive. And so basically what it does, it fills in the gap because there aren't enough police officers and police vehicles to go around, but it allows them to cover more ground more quickly, and it allows them to get eyes on a crime scene or on an accident or some kind of emergency situation far sooner than would otherwise be the case. And they're not saying how many drones they'll have. have. They're not saying how much money this is going to cost yet, but they're going to kind of use this as a learning opportunity to sort of shake the technology out, see what works, see what doesn't, and then hopefully establish kind of like a set of rules that other police forces across the country can then follow.
I think that the tech is interesting when you think that drones can carry cameras that can see at night vision capability, heat seeing capability. So, if there are perps hiding in a wooded area, it might be really useful or the drone can follow a perp as she or he runs away from a crime scene. I can see that being very high tech and cool.
Right on. They're talking about this being used to help resolve crimes much more effectively. And how do you do that? You collect evidence in real time, and this really allows police to do that. I keep thinking of a situation involving, say, a hit and run. That if you can't get a cop car on site fast enough, you can get a drone there and maybe catch the person who tried to run from the scene. It puts eyes in the sky, and it really gives first responders just a much greater ability to bring situations to a peaceful conclusion much more quickly, much more effectively. And I think we all want that. And I think also for all the billions of dollars that we spend on law enforcement in this country, we always seem to be short-staffed, and we always seem to be unable to cover, all of those needs. And, everyone's always got to wait for service. This kind of addresses that to a certain extent and allows all that investment that we're making in law enforcement to go that much further, all for the cost of, say, a few drones and a few experts to handle them.
Chat GPT being talked about once again, this time because of a rather high-level admission that if you are using Chat GPT as a therapist or confiding secrets to Chat GPT, there's no guarantee of confidentiality.
Yeah, this is a scary warning, and it comes to us from Sam Altman. He's the CEO of OpenAI. That is, of course, the company that brings us ChatGPT. He's somewhat of a maverick in the industry, and he was on a podcast last week, and he essentially warned. He said, "Look, if you're confiding in chatbots like ChatGPT, and a lot of people do, they kind of treat them like a human therapist." And he said, "You got to really be careful here because this is not like having a conversation with a real professional human therapist, because the same rules don't apply when you're talking to technology. There's no such thing as doctor-patient confidentiality when you're speaking with ChatGPT. There's no legal privilege, no legal protection, and we still haven't figured out what that will look like in this new AI-powered age." And so he's saying, be really careful, because if the company OpenAI gets subpoenaed by law enforcement or by lawyers involved in some kind of case, they're going to have no choice. They're going to have to provide that information. They can't just wave their hands and go, "Ooh, doctor-patient confidentiality." There is no privilege when you're talking about an AI chatbot. And Sam Altman's warning is a really important one. Draw lines in terms of understanding you're not talking to a human being when you're talking to ChatGPT. You're talking to a technology. There are no protections.
Carmi, good advice. Thanks very much.
Appreciate being here. Thanks, Trudy.
Carmi Levy is CTV's tech analyst.